Welcome, everybody. It is April 24th, 2026. This is Sprint 57, Lanthanum, or should I say Lanthayum, Fleet version 4.85.0. And for the tasty treats, we're going over to George and the MDM product group.
Alrighty, thank you for that. Kicking us off first will be Magnus.
Thank you. I have three quick ones to show you. So let's start with the first one, which is iOS, iPadOS Clear Passcode.
Hi, so today I'll demo this story, which is the iOS and iPadOS Clear Passcode actions. The user story reads the following. As an IT admin, I want to clear iOS/iPadOS passcode so that I can help my end users reset their passcode when they forget it. And this is super crucial because before this, you didn't really have any ways to do it. You could do it manually, but now it's integrated directly into Fleet. So the guide update is going to be under lock wipe host article, and there'll then be a section on clearing the passcode on iOS, iPadOS host, and when you can do it and when you can't, as well as where to find the action. So if I go here and open up this iPhone, if I lock my iPhone, you can see I have a passcode and I'm inputting it, that's fine. I can then go into Fleet, I can click clear passcode, and I can confirm that I want to clear the passcode. And then what we can do here is we can check the queue and make sure we wait a bit until it gets sent. And it was now, I cleared the passcode on this host. And if I go to my device, you can then see if I open it, there's no longer a passcode on it. So this in conjunction with a password profile or DDM profile works great because when you clear it, then the user is prompted to, of course, set a new password so you don't have passwordless devices. And that's it.
Yep, so that was the first one. And then there's two other quick ones, which are mainly UI. So let's do this one.
So now I'll demo this story, which is Simplify OS Settings Modal. The user story is, as an IT admin, I want to have a simplified and clearer view of names and statuses in the OS settings modal so that I can quickly glance and understand setting names and statuses. And there's no guide change or whatnot. It's a UI change to make it easier to see on these profile here. And there's still a resend button when you hover over verified or failed, but now instead of having the error column, it's be its own. It's now under the status, and then you hover, you get the tooltip for the status. And if it failed, it would also show the failure error that was to the right before in the tooltip now, which makes it slightly simpler and clearer and also less busy. So that's it.
Right, and then the last one.
Okay, so now I'll quickly demo this update copy and view buttons app-wide. The user story is, as a user, I want to have a consistent and clear experience so that I can feel confident navigating the site and knowing how things work. And the idea of this is that we moved these buttons that were previously inside the input fields into their own separate boxes to the right of the input field. And there's a couple of places in the app. Oops. There's a couple of places in the app where this is. There's the manage and roll sequence where all four buttons are now to the right, the copy, the edit, delete, and the view. And also if you go and add host to a team, the text inputs or the text boxes keeps this copy box above, but for other where it is inline, that's the Android here, which is an input field, you have the copy. There's also the same for API token, you can copy view, it's put to the side. So this should be the new style going forward. Thanks.
And that was it, those three.
Awesome, short and sweet and simple, but all great improvements to the product. Next up, I'll be demoing a video from Martin, so I'll go ahead and share that now.
This is a quick recording to show the DDM variable story. There's not much visually. It's basically just that DDM profiles now can have fleet variables in them. But yeah, I'll give you a quick look. I have my Mac Mini enrolled in the unassigned fleet. And show you, I will add some DDM profiles in there. Okay, so I have a list of profiles here. And if I look at it was UUI. So it's basically just this dummy profile, doesn't do anything, but it shows how you can now use fleet variable, which this will be replaced by the host UUID when it's delivered. So I will add this one, and we'll inspect the traffic to see what gets delivered. And I also add one with the platform, like this. And let's wait for it to be delivered. Okay, so I have my ngrok traffic filtered here on the MDM Apple endpoint. So you can see it did start here at declarative. So you can see now that this is the declarative management command that starts the DDM process, the DDM protocol. So it starts with the standard MDM command and then it turns into the DDM protocol in JSON. So the sync tokens, declarative items. But what's interesting for us, this is the activation, and this is the other activation, and this is the content. This is a DDM profile. So you can see that the payload here has been modified. So the environment, the fleet variable has been replaced with the actual UUID of the host. And same thing for the platform. It's a bit small. The platform DDM profile. So it has been replaced here with the payload echo macOS. Yeah. Okay. So basically that's the idea. The DDM variables are supported and they get replaced with the correct content. So maybe what I can do is add another one for something that where the variable doesn't actually exist on the host at the moment. So I will use an IDP username profile. Currently my host doesn't have any IDP user, so this cannot be delivered. So what we'll see in this case is that the host will get a failure. We can see that currently it's pending and the other are verified, but in a few seconds it will be failed and with the proper message. So there you go, it's failed, and if we hover over the failed status, it shows that there's no IDP username for this host. And what I'll do now is I will create an IDP user for this host, and it will resolve, go to pending, and then get delivered. Okay, so just now I'm adding the IDP user for the host. You see it goes right away to pending for this one, IDP username. The other ones don't get redelivered because they haven't changed. And just on the next time that the DDM session picks up the changes, it will go to verified. So there you go, it's verifying, and it should, that's not even this one. So yeah, it's verified here with the IDP username. And if we look at the exchange of the DDM session, this is the one. So you can see here IDP username, requesting the configuration, which is the content of the profile, and you can see the payload with the IDP user, test user1 at example.com. So yeah, that's it, working as expected.
All righty, we're going on to Jordan with 2 more features. Thanks, George. I'm just going to provide a couple of quick updates on some things that we worked on as time boxes in this sprint. All right, so hopefully this shows up. In the upcoming sprint, we had planned to work on platform SSO for Okta and Intra ID. This is the story for that. So this user stories as an IT admin, I want to make sure platform SSO is set up during setup assistant when setting up a new Mac so that my end users can use the same credentials to log into their Mac. We had done a prior POC of this functionality and ran into some issues due to non-support at the time. And we wanted to do a POC during this sprint to see whether the support was there. So I wrote up a quick doc, which I'll show in a minute. What we found is Intra still doesn't have support publicly. However, not only does Okta have support, it actually works in an unmodified fleet server today. We unfortunately also made the discovery that Apple has locked this out from screen recording using the usual trick during macOS 26.4 setup. So I'm going to show a quick demo that was recorded hastily on an iPad because I can't screen record this. I've got a capture card coming in that I'll use for upcoming sprints for this sort of functionality. But actually, just as a quick preview, I'll show you, this is what I've got configured for a setup experience. I've got a couple of profiles, a SkepCert profile and a Platform SSO profile, both configured based on Okta and some of the existing fleet documentation. And I've got Okta Verify, the latest version, configured as a setup experience app for macOS. And this is what it looks like on my Mac. I'll just skim through this real quick. You can see Okta Verify gets installed during setup. That jumping is a little odd, but it gets installed. And then after setup, you get this new screen instead of the user screen for single sign-on for Mac. And so you get the Okta logo here. It takes a moment to register the device, and then I put in my credentials and shortly. So this is going to register with Okta. And as you can see, this is locked. So I can't edit the credentials here. The password is locked to my Okta password. This is, it will, because it's got Okta Verify set up and desktop password sync set up, this will stay in sync with my Okta credentials. So it, like I said, the feature works today. We're going to work in this coming sprint on properly documenting it, because there's not the setup steps that are out there are like specific to different MDMs, but because of the architecture of Fleet and how configurable it is, you're able to get it working today. And as mentioned, there is a doc, an internal doc that describes the current setup. It has the profiles. Sorry if switching from dark mode to light mode here burned anybody's retinas. The profiles are not shared because they do include things like SCEP information, but they can easily be genericized. Yeah, that is Platform SSO POC. Really happy with that finding, that it works on an unmodified Fleet server. And then the second one that I've got is Apple released an article this week that was for IT developers and things that said, prepare your network environment for stricter security requirements. And this document essentially says, hey, in the next major version, we'll be increasing the requirements of connections to servers that do MDM enrollment, that do DDM, that do VPP installs, even servers that you do package installs from. And we wanted to verify that Fleet is ready for this. And we did a bunch of testing this week in our Fleet dog food environment, in our render environment, and then also using a command that Apple highlights in the article, ran tests against several like customer environments that are online for self-hosted customers. I'm not going to show the results of that, obviously, but I can show you that all Fleet environments, so testing passed in the Fleet environment, and all Fleet URLs passed the full suite of tests based on the command that Apple gives us to test this. And we'll be putting out some customer communications shortly for customers that have questions, or for self-hosted customers that want to validate that their setups, especially if they're different than our usual Fleet Managed Cloud setups, work. But as best we can tell, Fleet Managed Cloud and Fleet internal dog food are ready for this, as are the setups that many of us developers use on Render or on Ngrok or things like that. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Jordan. And that concludes the MDM features. Now we'll get moving on to software with Carlo.
All right. Thank you. Okay, for this demo, I'll be showing macOS setup experience. Create a local admin account. The user story for this is, as an IT admin, I want Fleet to create a local break glass admin account so that my IT team can use this account to troubleshoot. So this was a lot of fun to work on, quite a bit of complexity, and it was a team effort between myself, Jonathan, Rachel, and Jordan from the MDM team, as well as Magnus, who reviewed a key PR. So thanks everybody who chipped in on this one. So I'll go over to the Fleet instance here, and we can see I have some hosts. The one we want to look at is here. So I just want to show that this is enrolled in ADE. We can look at the MDM integration settings and see that all of this is as we might expect. And we'll go over to here. And we can see all that is as we might expect it to be. Okay, we'll look in here. Everything looks good. So if I go over to controls and setup experience, you can see that we have this new flag. There's managed local account, which creates a hidden managed local admin account for remote troubleshooting on macOS hosts. So first what I want to do is show you this so we can see for my fleet that I have enable local account is false and the account type is admin. And we can see here that there are no passwords saved. So this is just the fresh state of our host. So I come over here and you can see that I don't have any additional accounts. So if I hit escape, I can't access any more accounts. This is the only one that's on here. All right. So I can come in here and enable this and save it. And now we expect to see the values get updated here. So we get true for the enable managed local account. And we still don't have anything here because we haven't gone through enrollment, right? We will do that now, and I will come right back and show you the rest. Okay, and we're back. So I'm here at my host, and we can see that we have the show managed account menu item in the actions dropdown. I can click this and of course copy and view. And if we look over at the DB, we can see we have our encrypted password and everything seems to be correct. So if we go to our host, we can see now, before I only had this, now I have this other, and I can come in and put my admin account information in here. Okay, so I've gotten my login credentials from the modal that we looked at here. And I logged in with those. And just to verify, we can see that I'm logged in as Fleet Admin. And I want to come here and go to terminal. And we'll run a couple commands to make sure that we have the right permissions. And it is hidden is 1. That was what I really wanted to look at. Okay, and the last thing I'll show here is just that we can see this in the activity feed that I'm viewing the managed local account. I've enabled it. You can see I've disabled it and so on. So all of these show up in the activity feed as expected. All right. And the docs are in the works, but they'll live here in the setup experience guide. And the other thing that I didn't get a chance to mention in the video is that the user that's created does correctly get created in the admin group. And so I just wanted to call that out. But yep, that's it for this one.
Awesome. Thank you, Carlo. I know that's a very anticipated feature as well. Next up, we've got Jonathan presenting some work that Ian did.
Let me share my screen. So this is a demo for the macOS setup experiences canceled activity. So as an IT admin, I want to know when Fleet cancels setup experience because software failed to install. What we will do is we'll go to controls and setup experience. And we have some software that we want to install, some Fleet maintained apps and some custom packages. But one of this is going to fail the install. We're going to enable a cancel setup if software install fails. And we'll save. And we're going to start up a virtual machine and queue up a setup experience for it. Going to use this command line tool to use setup experience on a virtual machine. This might take a second to queue up. And as you can see, we're installing some software now. You can ignore these previous activities. You can see we have an upcoming install. And we installed 010 editor during setup experience. And now we're installing the app with the bad install script during just run exit one. You can see we also installed 010 editor and Audacity during setup experience here in the global activities. Fleet will attempt to install this app multiple times, so we have to wait until it fails at least 3 times. Oh, and our setup experience failed. So this is the message that the user will see. And on Fleet, we see now some new activities. We see Fleet canceled install on user's virtual machine during setup experience. We see Fleet canceled setup experience on user's virtual machine because of WhatsApp failed to install. So we will actually see the reason why setup experience failed in this activity. Then we have individual failed to install activities and individual canceled activities for each of the software that were about to be installed on the user. We can also filter by the canceled setup experience activity. And yeah, that's the feature. There's also another small feature that I would like to show, but this is very last minute. So we have a host activity, show configuration profile name and status in the activities card on the host details page. So as an IT admin looking at the MDM commands, I want to see the configuration profiles names for install profile and remove profile commands so that I can debug configuration profile issues. Yeah, so if I go here and I go to previous MDM commands, you'll see the install profile command for Fleet D configuration, which is the name of the profile, was acknowledged. And if we can click on it, we can see all the details here. And we can see the install profile for the Fleet root CA and for the Fleet D configuration. So hopefully now it's easier to tell what profile was installing and if it or succeeded. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. And then last up for software, we've got Rachel.
Hey everybody, I'm going to play a video for you. Hey everyone, just a quick walkthrough of the changes in 41753. Edit policy and reports page, make the SQL editor less prominent. So the user story is, as an IT admin viewing a query or policy, I don't want the SQL editor to be the first thing I see so that I don't feel like I need to be a SQL expert to use Fleet. So not every Fleet admin, maintainer, technician, or observer is a SQL expert. And when the raw query is front and center, it can feel intimidating or confusing, especially when they really just want to understand what a policy does and not get sidetracked in the SQL. So let me go ahead and show you what things look like before. So here I am on the policies page. And if I click into a policy, I am met with this policy editor page, and you can see a lot of flashy hoverness happening here. This looks and feels like I need to be editing this page in order to continue with my flow because there's so much editing options on here, as well as a large chunk of the screen taken up with the SQL query itself. This is definitely the same mental model of having to edit something and not really just viewing something, which made it hard to tell that this is more of a viewable screen here. So let me go ahead and show you what it looks like now. So here I am on the policies page, and I'm going to click on a specific policy. So here you can see we have its own policy/ID goes straight to a policy details page, in which we have our title, our description, our resolution, our author, what fleet it belongs to, and our platform. I'm going to go back to policies and go to a specific one that has an automation attached to it. So here you can see we have a software automation, meaning if this policy fails, then this software will be installed onto the host. Notice that there is no SQL in sight. You don't feel like you need to edit anything in order to view this information. If you did want to see the SQL, you can go ahead and click the Show Query button in the top right corner. And if for users with permission to run policies, there will be a Run Policy button and an Edit Policy button as well. So what happens when you click on Edit Policy? So let me go ahead and you end up navigating to a separate route, policy/ID/edit, in which you'll see our more standard input fields here to edit the name, description, and resolution. Down below, you have your targets, your automations that are attached to this policy, whether or not you want to mark this as critical, and at the very end, you have your SQL editor. So whether you're an admin managing your own fleet or walking someone through fleet for the first time, you're now saying, hey, here's a policy and here's what it checks. And then if you wanted to, you can do a deeper dive into editing the policy itself. This follows the same mental model as the reports page, which if you're looking at a report, you can already see that it currently sets you to the reports details page. And when you want to edit that report, it has the same mental model of the buttons in the top right corner. You can now see that editing report has the same standard input fields as well, with the ability to edit the SQL down below. So to wrap up, policies now have their own dedicated details page and a separate edit route, and the SQL is accessible but no longer the star of the show. And same thing with the reports page, the SQL is moved to the bottom as well. And this gives anyone walking through fleet reports and policies a much cleaner story to tell. That's it.
All right. Thank you so much, Rachel. And that finishes it for MDM and software. Back to you, Luke.
All right. Thank you. That is some great stuff. Excited to get that launched. Over to Sharon and orchestration for their features.
Thank you, Luke. And we'll start with the security and compliance. So one of the things Fleet is doing is CIS compatibility. Our customers can keep all their environments and hosts up to date with CIS standards. One of the big issues with this work is that it's very time consuming and traditionally took us a long time to update and do things. We'll start with Dante showing first updates of a few documents and also automation that we hope will make it even shorter in the near future. Take it, Dante.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Let me just share my screen here. This is a multi-port feature. We have CAS benchmarks, add macOS 26, update macOS 15 and 14, deprecate macOS 13. The first part of this was updating CAS benchmarks on macOS 14 to cover the v13 of the document. Second part was macOS 15 to cover version 2. And the third part was CAS version 1 for macOS 26. A large part of this was actually creating what Sharon was talking about, the automation to help speed up this process. You can see here for macOS 26, because this was the largest component, we've created the benchmarks and also created a full test suite of CAS pass and fail scripts, as well as mobile configs for the tests. And one of the huge things to fall out of this was I created a very large document here detailing in quite detail the authoring, testing, and automation of the CAS benchmarks. We have the full policy description. We have the field references. We have query patterns that we use across all these benchmarks. The tables that are frequently used for these benchmarks, test artifacts, a lot of details about how the script should be run. And we also have a prompt here which references that CAS benchmark that we can give to AI assistants so that we can speed these up further in the future. For example, this was used to create the macOS CAS benchmark for version 26. And on top of that, we now have an automated system here. You can see it paused it right when it got to the point where it's about to start going. A script that will now automatically spin up and create a macOS VM for the version that you're testing. It knows how to use the scripts directory and the mobile configs, and you can plug it into your Fleet instance, and it'll one by one push and test every profile and script that's used for testing to the virtual machine, test the remediation works, and then report back any failures. You can see here, it's going through the thing, it's testing before it pushes the remediations, failed as expected. It's quite a slow process, so I don't want to keep everyone here waiting, but it'll fail everything, push all the successful scripts and profiles, and then test it again for successes and report back. This should really greatly help us in the future speed things up and allows us to cut the time in maybe a quarter compared to what it used to be before. Thank you.
Thank you, Dante. And I'm really hopeful that this is going to serve us well in quicker updates and keeping CIS up to date. We'll move to vulnerabilities. We take our vulnerabilities from several sources, NVD, Oval, etc. And one of the changes we did this sprint is moving to OSV, which is a better source for Linux vulnerability, and Tim will present it.
Alrighty, everyone had a good intro here. Largely, we use Oval data for Linux vulnerability management as a data source. That changed the last sprint or last release. Folks saw Constantine's hard work switching to OSV for Ubuntu vulnerabilities in particular. This is a similar change to do Red Hat vulnerabilities. And largely, just to recap a little bit, that this is due to some bugs and some data issues that we saw within Oval. So you might be asking, why the hell am I demoing a feature for bug fixes? And that is because there's a fun side effect that happened when we did this, and that is 0-day support for new Linux OSs. I'm going to steal Constantine's thunder because I think Ubuntu 26 just got released yesterday. New vulnerabilities haven't been announced yet, but when they do, we'll get them the same day. Now, from a Red Hat perspective, folks have been asking about Red Hat 10. And that also comes for free here. I'm using Alma in this case, but same. Let's use our fancy vulnerability filter. And here we go. We have vulnerabilities on Red Hat 10. Also go into the software OS page, and we also have kernel vulnerabilities. Last thing before I forget, switching data sources can be a little scary. A lot of vulnerabilities out there, a lot of questions maybe around, are there going to be any regressions? Part of the scope of this story created a bit of a large test suite. Here's our regression results. And we actually found a bit more data in OSV compared to Oval. So that's very good news and something we're excited about. So we have really high confidence in this migration. And that's about it.
Thank you, Tim. And I think the latest buzz in the market is that work on prevention instead of solving. And I think this is a great step towards that. And that concludes the security and compliance. Next, we'll move to orchestration. Juan and Nico worked on a new feature to add a role for our servers to have a GitOps-based, an API-based user that will only have specific APIs. So it won't have all things. Under the hood, it required mapping the APIs and allowing those specific things. Juan will present.
Hey all, let me just share real quick. Hello. Today I'm gonna demo a new type of user that we're gonna be adding to Fleet, which is the API-only user. So API-only users allow you to specify a more granular level of access control by specifying which specific API endpoints a user can have access to. So the idea behind an API-only user is that if for some reason the user token is leaked, we can limit the attack surface to only a specific number of endpoints. So if I go to the user settings page, we can see that the add user button is now a drop-down, and we have two options. The first one is to create a regular user. So if I click that, we can see that the only change we introduce there is that this used to be a model, and it's now a full-fledged page. But besides that, everything else stays the same. If I now try to add an API-only user, we can see that compared to regular users, API-only users have a very limited set of fields that we need to fill in. The only thing you need to specify is some name, and which access control rules you want to grant your user. So we have two different levels of access control. At the first level, we have role-based access control, which works pretty much as regular users. So you can either define a global role, or you can assign you can scope the role to specific fleets. So let me just do a global admin to keep the demo simple. The next level of access control you can have is at the API layer. So you can either grant access to all API endpoints, or you can specify which API endpoints the user should have access to. So here we can search for endpoints either by name or by path. So if I do this host, and I can do something like this, and maybe something like this, and let's try host, maybe something like this. So with this new user only gonna have access to these 3 API endpoints. So we click back here, we are taken to a confirmation screen where we see the new user name and its API key. Click done here, and then I'm taken back to the users page. So here we can see the new user, which is an API only user, as per this little UI hint here, and we're not showing the email. And the reason for that is because the email for API only users is randomly generated. So if I take a peek at my database, we can see that this is the email of the API only user. And it follows a really simple rule. So we basically take the domain of the login user, and we take the username of the login user and add it as a prefix, and the rest is some random noise, right? So to test this, I'm gonna try to hit this endpoint, which I should be able to. And I need to add verify no. There we go. So this will also work if we do like a floating API reference like this. Okay, so that works. If I try to do the host details for this ID here, I actually get like an access error, which we do. So another thing we introduce here is the ability to create API only users. Excuse me. Via fleet control. So if we take a look here, we can see that now on fleet control, the password and the email fields are optional when you're creating an API only user. So I can do something like this. Oh, and this is API only. There we go. So I see that the new user was created, and here we are telling the user that the API only user was created with some defaults, and that if they want to tweak that, they need to do so via the Fleet UI. So once I'm ready, I can see the token, right? And here, if I go back to my list of users, I can see that this is the user we created from Fleet Control. And we see that by default, the permissions is set to be a global observer, which access to all API endpoints. So another thing to notice is that since API only users are a subset of the user type, we get the whole activity enchilada around users, right? So here we can see when the user was created, the access, and if I do some changes to the role, I should be able to see that. Yep, there you go. Okay, cool.
Great, thank you, Juan. And that is the limited API user. And lastly, for the features, just a small thing that I want to show. We have on the SQL verifier, we have the ability to verify. Sorry, let me repeat. For reports previously named queries, we have a verifier on the UI that checks the SQL itself and it's doing a good job, but sometimes the SQL is very complicated and the verifier shows a wrong false positive. We already fixed it in reports, and now we're going to fix it. We fix it also on the policies, and I'll show a quick video on that. Quick demo of the ability to save SQL in policies that is not 100%. So in reports, we have the ability to save SQLs that do not pass the verifier, because we know that the verifier is not 100% and sometimes it finds errors that are not true, false positives. And we now have this ability in policies. Let's do a quick one. Fleet rocks. Not that it's not true, but it's not a good SQL. Save, put a test. Save it. There we go. And now we have test 3 with a not so good SQL. And that's that for orchestration. Back to you, Luke.
Thank you, orchestration and security and compliance. Great stuff. Next, we're going to get into the working groups. We have some good stuff to show, starting with first impressions. And again, first impressions is a working group focused on the first impression of the Fleet product. And in any way that happens, I'll hand it over to Scott.
Thank you, Luke. Let me share my screen here. So the first thing we have to talk about in the first impressions group is dashboard charts. There's a couple of stories involved here, so I'll read them quickly first. First is the host activity and host enrolled widgets. As a Fleet user, I want to see the host activity and host enrolled widgets so that I can visualize uptime and the distribution of hosts across platforms. We also have one similar for vulnerability exposure. As a Fleet user on the dashboard, I want to see a chart for vulnerability exposure so that I can understand how my team is doing with reaching our vulnerability patching goals. So basically, we've got all this data that we collect with Fleet and we put it to various usage, but what we haven't been doing as much of until now is working with historical data. A big part of this story was to put in place a historical data framework for collecting that. I won't go too far into the technical details. That's something I might talk about in Eng Together, but suffice it to say, we're using a SCD, or slowly changing dimension format, so that for things that might have millions of rows because of high cardinality, like CVEs, where we have 10,000 CVEs and we're recording every hour, that could add up very quickly. But instead, we just record changes. So when the set of hosts that are affected by a certain vulnerability change, we record a new row, and otherwise we keep it open and just say when that data point is valid from and to, which collapses that down. So I can show you the before. This is what our current dashboard looks like, where we've got these boxes across the top with the number of hosts in each platform, total hosts, stuff like that. And ta-da, here is the new dashboard. All of that total hosts and by platform has been broken down into this hosts enrolled charts and frees up a lot of space in the top. The platform selector has moved down because it doesn't actually affect these charts right now. And then you can see the hosts active chart here, which is inspired by the GitHub contribution checkerboard. So this chart shows hosts that have checked in online at least once during a given time period. Again, we're actually checking this every 10 minutes or so, but where the granularity right now is to an hour. So if you checked in during a given hour, you get a point. And the more hosts that are checked in during that time period, the darker the box. This is actually broken down to 3-hour periods, but we can chart it anywhere from 1 hour to any divisor of 24. So you can see as I hover over at between 12 a.m. and 3 a.m. on April 22nd, 90% of these are all test hosts, test data. 90% of these hosts were active. It breaks down how many hosts we were looking at out of the total. I stopped actually recording some time ago, so that's why these are all blank. This works on a per fleet basis as well. Unfortunately, the test data that I used has almost equal number of hosts in between the two fleets. So you can see if I hover on this box, it's 1668 out of 1875. And if I change it to workstations, it's slightly different numbers, 1691 out of 1874. Doesn't make this particular chart look much different because, again, the OS query perf data is pretty similar for both of them. You can also filter right now hosts by various filters. We can do labels. We can filter by any label. You can filter by any platform, so only Windows hosts, which will change the numbers in here, and it'll show you that you're working with a filtered data set. You can also exclude or include only specific hosts. So if I just click a few of these, you'll now see when I hover 4 out of 4 hosts. So that's the active chart. It gives you a little description here, shows the number of hosts detected online during a given hour. And then you can switch charts by clicking here and selecting vulnerability exposure. This one shows in red. The darker the red, the more exposed you are. I haven't been collecting as much data for this one, but the important thing to note about this chart, at least for the first release of this, we are limiting this to showing vulnerability to specific critical CVEs in specific software set. So if you hover over this right now, it'll actually show you a link in the tooltip that goes to just the code right now that shows you which things that we're looking at. So this is a fuzzy match on a bunch of different software, including Linux kernel images, and it also is looking at OS CVEs, so anything in macOS or Windows, we get caught up in that. And as we move forward with this, we're going to introduce more dedicated filters per chart. So you might be able to filter by CVE level on this chart or by specific CVEs if you like. And we'll be introducing different charts in the future. If you were at the engineering offsite, you would have seen Constantine with a policy compliance chart in here that we're going to be introducing as well. It looks really good. So that is the... don't think I forgot anything about charting, but that is the charting story that we have going right now.
Scott, I'll just add that in the future, not yet, but you'll be able to control this graph easily with the YAML via GitOps so that you have a history of changes to vulns that you're tracking. You'll be able to look at specific CVEs, make exceptions, and even filter using stuff like known kevs. Great work, Scott.
Yep, all good stuff coming in the future. So that is that one. Next up, 42972, fleet control installers included in fleet releases for macOS and Windows. As an IT admin who wants to use fleet control, I want to download a fleet control installer from the fleetdam.com website so that I can install the binary in a way that I'm used to and comfortable with. This was building off of some great work by Alan, who started the work on building the macOS packager for fleet control using our GitHub actions. And I brought that over the line. It was mostly done, and then did the same for MSI installers. And the idea here is that when we actually publish a fleet release, we will publish fleet control binaries in packaged format, so .pkg or .msi format, that will be able to download, or users will be able to download from the fleetdm.com website, as opposed to what we have now, which is a link where we tell them how to run the curl command to download fleet control, or else they use npm. Neither of those are quite as sticky or as user-friendly as just being able to install a package. So we've gotten that request multiple times. I don't have much of a demo for this, but we can see at least that there are a couple of new workflows here. These are not the ones that actually will run. These are kind of test workflows, but the benefit of keeping them around is that time to time, our fleet releaser workflow might have an error for one reason or another. And rather than having to retag the release and rerun that workflow, we can run one of these on a specific branch to actually get that release published and attached, or sorry, get that package published and attached to the release. So this is all up and working. We'll get the final test of this when we do the release. And I believe the website part of this is still in progress, but we just need to have that out before 485 goes out. And so we're committed to that. Will they be signed? Yes, these are both going to be signed. It uses we have this hodgepodge. We already had all of these different pieces in different GitHub action workflows. So it was more about making sure they were put together in the right way. And yes, as Luke said, no more installing Node to build fleet control for our end users. And last but not least, conditional download of software packages in GitOps. So this was part of a broader effort to make GitOps runs faster. And the biggest bottleneck we identified was definitely software installs. And what was realized is that most of the time for custom packages, especially, the package doesn't necessarily change between GitOps runs, but we had no way of detecting that. And so we were always downloading custom packages and then re-uploading them. And that was taking tons of time for customers that had lots and lots of packages. We got a community PR from, I'm going to butcher this person's name, but thank you. I'm going to say Dan Sikansky. And he got the ball rolling and got this almost all the way over the line for the first iteration of this, which was using a cache option. We flipped this on its head, and now we do this by default. And you can opt out by putting in a always download option in GitOps. I don't know if I show it in here, but the general idea here is that, always download, and the key is always download. The general idea here is that it uses e-tags, which we then store on the server. Really briefly, e-tag is a way for a server to give a hash of a file or of whatever resource it's sending down. You can then store that hash, and then next time you request that resource, you put up a special header called if none match, and you provide that hash. If the server already has that same resource with that same hash and it hasn't changed, it'll just send down a not modified 302. I think it's 302 response. And then we then take that and say, okay, we don't need to re-download this. We can just use the package that we already have, and that speeds up GitOps considerably. The other part of this that I worked on was just to make this work not just within a single fleet, but across fleets. So you might have the same package on 10 different fleets in your instance. And as long as you upload it to one, the other ones can then use that cached version. So it'll speed it up even on those initial runs.
Looks good.
All right. So I think that's it for my runs on first impressions. Back over to Luke.
Cool. Thank you, Scott. Really awesome stuff. And not simple on the charts, the full stack work there. Great job. I'm really excited to be able to show you all this next one. It's something we've been waiting for a long time. Add dark theme to Fleet user interface. As a user of the Fleet user interface, I want Fleet to automatically use my preferred light or dark OS theme so that I can use the theme I'm most comfortable with. I had the opportunity to sit down with Mike Thomas here in Austin last week and go over and fine tune colors. Thanks to Rachel and Nico for the help on reviewing and pointing things out. So let's get into it. You've waited for years. You've seen the previews. Coming Monday, April 27th, to a dog food near you. Join the dark side. Here we have all fleets. Pretty straightforward. So what I'm doing here is I am toggling my OS settings. So it's going to automatically inherit that. Go over to the dashboard. We've got this populated. We've got our modals. Yeah, so the user interface we all know and love. Now, not spotlighting you if you're working in a dark room. So really excited to get this launched. We're going to be putting it into dog food on Monday. Going to continue to fine tune it with Mike Thomas and the design team. And if anyone notices something that just looks a little bit wonky, like for example, let's see if I can give you a good example of something wonky. So like this select is probably a little too bright. I don't know, is it? That'll be the stuff we're fine tuning over the next week. So if you notice stuff that just doesn't feel quite right, post to the first impressions channel, and we'll be continuing to iterate on it over the next couple of weeks. But really excited to get this out. I know it's been on a wish list for a lot of people, fleeties and customers alike. It's going to be a lot of fun to launch this along with all the other great stuff that we have going into 4.85. All right, that is it for the first impressions working group. So next we're going to move over to Power to the PC working group. This is a new working group we spun up, so it's going to be the first release cycle. And this is a working group focused on empowering Windows users. Right now, that means primarily MDM and building MDM maturity on the Windows side. So I'm going to hand it over to Victor to show off the work for this release.
Thank you, Luke. In addition to Windows, also Android. So this feature is specifically for Android.
In this story, we're going to improve the Android experience with deploying corporate Wi-Fi. As an IT admin managing our Android, I want to make sure that Wi-Fi configuration profile, Open Network Configuration, also known as ONC, with client cert key pair alias, referencing certificate and fleet, is delivered after the certificate so that I can ensure that my Wi-Fi configuration won't fail. So the issue we're trying to solve here is that we want to get the certificate on the device first and only afterwards send the ONC. Otherwise, if we send the ONC first, it will fail. So let's take a look at my setup here in Fleet. So I have a certificate here, Wi-Fi cert. This is the one. This SCEP CA is going to issue cert for my corporate Wi-Fi. And in the configuration profile, I have my ONC profile, which looks like this. This is a standard, industry standard. So the key part is over here. We have the cert key pair alias Wi-Fi cert exactly referencing my certificate template. And let's take a look at the device. So on the device, I have my corporate Wi-Fi. If I just try to connect it, I won't be able to because I don't have all this information. But once I enroll the device, it will get a cert and then it'll get that configuration profile and then we'll be able to connect to it. So I'm going to go ahead and enroll the device. And while I'm doing that, because it takes a little while, I'll pause the video. Okay, so as we're enrolling, we already see our device show up in Fleet. So if we click into our device, we will see that we have our Wi-Fi cert that's pending. And then shortly, we will have the ONC profile here again. Let's see if it shows up now. Not yet. Let's see, there we go. And here in the details, we have a message here to tell the IT admin that this one's not going to be sent out. It's going to be withheld until this Wi-Fi cert either succeeds or fails. So meanwhile, what's happening on the device is that it is, let me show the device. So the device is, it has the Fleet app here, and it's going to fetch the certificates. So it should come through without a couple of minutes or so. So I'm going to pause the video again. Okay, looks like the certificate is being issued. So let's see, there we go. This cert is verified. So now on the next cycle, this profile is going to get sent out. Let's see, there we go, it got sent out and it's verified. So now if I go to our device, we can switch to our corporate Wi-Fi. Let's go through settings without any issues. So now if I press corporate Wi-Fi, it's going to connect without any issues. The last thing I did want to show how it looks like when this fails. I have a screenshot here. When this fails, we get a message like this. There you go. And that's it for this video. All right, I didn't want to show the doc. So we do have a guide for deploying this. And there's just a small update to that guide regarding the behavior. That's it for me. Back to you, Luke.
Cool. Thank you, Victor. And to ping pong it, since that's the end of the working groups, you want to go straight into your spotlight?
Yes, sure thing. Back to sharing. We're going to reverse it. Okay. So the spotlight is we fixed an issue with BitLocker that wasn't working if there was like another encrypted disk. And the key change here is that we're no longer decrypting the full Windows disk that we used to do, which matches the behavior of other Windows MDM. So now for Windows BitLocker, when we need to get a new unlock key, we are only rotating the key, not decrypting. And then the other spotlight is we are making some Fleet and Windows MDM scaling improvements to get us to 30, 50,000 hosts for Windows MDM as we're onboarding larger customers. There's things going on and things going to be happening. Additional performance improvements are going to be happening next sprint as well. That's all for my spotlight.
Awesome. Thank you. Scott, are you ready? You want to move up the list? Am I putting you on the spot?
Oh, for a spotlight? I was just
I just saw you were. Yeah,
I was just adding it out. Yeah, I think it's worth talking about if you want to talk about it now.
Okay,
I'll finish adding it to the list in a second. Yeah, so this was fixed. This is more of an internal thing, but actually, no, it's not just internal. It's for everybody. So the way that we were having people do fleet control package when they were doing a Windows package, you do fleet control package type MSI, and that would require installing Wine, which happened via Homebrew, which we gave people a link for a script that we wrote that would install it for them via Homebrew. But anyways, none of that works anymore due to various changes mostly in the way Homebrew deals with unverified packages that skipped quarantine, doesn't let you do that anymore. Fortunately, for a while now, it's been possible to build this in Docker. And so we fixed the whole process to do what we were already doing for other package types for Windows and for Mac and for Linux, which is just build it in the container. So that if you do fleet control package for an MSI now, just builds it in the Docker container. Requires Docker, but we already required that for other architectures and other package types anyway. So it should be pretty seamless. The edge cases for people who were using their own version of Wix, the Wix Windows tools, they will still need to find a way to install Wine. Godspeed to them, because it's become more and more difficult to install on Mac. But anyways, if we hear of any customers that are having an issue with this, is something to point them to. And yeah, I think that was my main bug fix from this release.
Awesome. Let's keep it exciting and go fantasy football draft style, first to last, then last to first, and just go up the list up to Lucas and Nico.
Yeah, I'll show a screen. Just wanted to mention this one. This is about that there seems to be some corruption of keychains happening on macOS 26. We got some reports from a couple of customers. We've been working hard on this one this week. We were not able to reproduce the actual corruption of the keychain. I did some crazy query execution and management of the OS query process. But anyways, we did fix, because customers were seeing these keychain files, login renamed, which hints some corruption on the original keychain file. And they were also seeing errors like this, like corrupt here. You can see big corrupt here, and it says OS query. So that's not good. So we investigated this and found that this is actually a red herring. Like, this is not real corruption. This was OS query trying to parse like files that were not a keychain. So Apple, this method from Apple framework, whenever they found a non-keychain file, they just say, okay, this is corrupted, right? So the fix that we're working on, and it's going to be merged on Y23, is to not process files that are not keychain to avoid these errors here. And also, we weren't able to reproduce the corruption, but we added some measures to prevent corruption, if there is corruption, before actually accessing the keychain files using the Apple framework. OS query will first copy the keychain to a temporary location and then use whatever APIs on that file. So if you break it, it's just a temporary file and not the real keychain. So that's been fixed, released on 5.23 soon. Yeah, that's about it on this feature.
Cool, great find. Thank you for digging into that.
Just mentioning that it'll be released with OS query next week, hopefully.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Looks like next up to Carlo.
All right, I just threw these up here as a call out for the patch that we released 2 weeks ago. 4.83 was failing a couple different things, where if new values like type, patch versus dynamic on policies, if you forgot the type, it was failing to create the new policy. That has been fixed, so it defaults the dynamic type instead of breaking you.
Awesome, great. And last up, do we have spotlights for MDM?
I don't necessarily have any individual explicit spotlights for MDM. Do want to spotlight the Andrews. These are Andrew Meller's first contributions to Fleet, and he's crushing it this sprint. So 5
Nice job, Andrew. Welcome to
progress.
Cool. Since we have a little bit of time, there was a request to see the dog, the Sith dog, as I'm calling it. So this will be the eyes may or may not be pulsing.
Also, I don't think you demoed how to toggle
manually
Mode to
toggle.
dark mode.
I forgot that. So it will inherit your system default, but maybe you just want to switch back and forth. So there is this toggle here. I am mixing my series with Jean-Luc Picard and the Star Wars intro.
Gandalf, I'm sure.
You can come here and toggle that, which I've spent way too much time just sitting here doing that. So
If you're like 100 of those, Luke. So
I only get 100 of those. Party mode, that's what's coming next. We do have 8 minutes left. Sharon, George, anyone on the working groups have anything you want to call out from improvements? There's a lot of bug fixes and improvements, of course, that we haven't gone over yet.
We did do several ones. I don't know. Team, you want to present maybe you know what? I'll keep it open for anyone, team or anyone from the team.
So there was a lot of work done at the offsite. I know one of the things I demoed was like a POC of EDR, endpoint detection response. So I will be flushing it out and demoing it later, maybe next sprint, product and other stakeholders.
Nice. That's a great exploration for us to dig into. One of my favorite, there was too many favorite things from the hackathon. So we had the product and engineering offsite last week here in Austin, had a hackathon. Of course, a lot of really cool, fun stuff came out of that. One of my personal favorites, it's small, but it's so needed. It came from George. So I hope he's following that up with a PR, is you can now copy a host's My Device link, right? So you can see what the My Device page looks like for that host from the admin. Right now, in order to get that information, you have to actually be the host or go into the database and grab it. That's just a quality of life thing for admins that I'm really excited about. Anything else from the hackathon that folks are excited about?
Luke, does that mean somebody could see it on their phone and they could see their My Device page about their computer?
Yes.
Wow. So it'd be like in your calendar event, you open
That
it
would
up.
only be if they are a fleet admin or.
Oh, yeah. So that's targeted at fleet admins, right? That's for a fleet admin who needs to see something from the user's perspective. The user calls them and says, hey, I'm seeing this thing on My Device page. I'm not sure what it is. Before, it was really hard for the admin to view that page. And with this, just little quality of life improvement, it copies a link and the admin can open it.
But it's true, the admin would be able to see their host device page from the phone.
Correct.
Yes, so that is true. The admin could. Something else that I didn't call out about dark mode is that is also going to apply to the My Device page and to the setup experience. And so it's not just admins of the user interface, it's any user who's a My Device page. So all the folks that are enrolled in Fleet across all of our customers who have dark mode enabled will automatically get that on their My Device page, which I think will be a nice surprise and delight type of thing for them.
So that means all that new stuff is secured with the same SSO that admin is using to log in. And people that don't have admins enabled or going purely infrastructure as code for some of those high privilege actions, they wouldn't be able to do this, obviously. So all of that's protected under the same auth people are already used to.
Right, exactly.
Amazing.
So if we have a minute talking about the hackathon, first, it was a great offsite for the team, and I think everyone enjoyed it, but also a lot of hackathon stuff, and maybe you want to present it at some point. But just saying that Carlo and I worked on the OS query for Android and made it more mature. It was at, 70%, and now it's significantly more. That was also nice. And just for anyone who watches outside of the company, this is only a hackathon. It's not going in, not a promise, but maybe.
But yeah, all this stuff is not necessarily going in, just things we were excited to try out and play with. And a lot of stuff is going in that came out of that. Some really exciting stuff that we're looking forward that's already mostly built. So you'll be seeing that stuff coming through product design drafting and into the releases in a normal cadence. Hey, George, to put you on the spot, you want to talk about the fleet pet a little bit? So this was something that I suggested as a joke. Wouldn't it be funny if there was a little, what are they called? Tamagotchi character.
Yeah, I didn't want to get crushed. I didn't want to get crushed by copyright. So I called it the virtual pet.
Virtual pet.
Let me see if I can find some stuff
end
that
on a
I grabbed
lighthearted
real fast.
I'll buy you some time. So the idea, which I think is real, and that's probably what we would want to explore in product design, would be, what if there was some greater motivator on the My Device page to keep your device healthy for the end user? And what if that was like a little pet, digital pet that you had to take care of by patching your devices and keeping your policies up to date? So I'll hand it off to George.
All right, I'm sharing it now. Here's a little glimpse of what could have been. In my mind, it was a lot cuter with pixel art and maybe a little beautiful art additions. But yeah, maybe we'll revisit it in a more polished setting and see what happens.
Right.
Oh, I love the concept. And yeah, definitely ask your art. You shouldn't run into problems with copyrights. Tamagotchi is a well-known hacker world concept, goes all the way before I was even born. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea. I always have said that gamification of the platform is very important. I think this is going towards that direction. So that absolutely stoked to see it. Yeah.
I asked one of our customers, would they be interested? And they said, let me pet it in the Fleet desktop dropdown, and I'm all ears. So we'll see.
I think it's a fine line when we're doing device management and security, not to be too silly, but I think our users appreciate a little bit of humor every now and again to kind of lighten the mood. And speaking of gamification, we do have 2 more minutes. George put you on the spot again with another idea that was rejected, which is okay, is adding the Fleet Arcade project I built a while ago as a secret Easter egg to Fleet.
All right. That's going to be requiring me to log in from the separate device. One moment.
Okay. So we are technically over if anybody wants to drop, but if you want to stay and see the Easter egg, it's basically an asteroids type game where the ships represent your hosts. And if they're vulnerable, they're flashing red and you can click into them. It's the idea of gamification. What if the IT admin actually didn't use an interface? He just played a video game all day. And that was what was triggering the actions. Also, another idea was if the Fleet, how end users hate when the IT admin takes over their device. Another idea was what if they had to challenge you to a Street Fighter-like game before they could take over your device, and they couldn't take your device unless they beat you in Street Fighter. Again, just a fun idea. So these are the things that come out of late night offsite conversations. And the code is the famous, you have to put in the code, what's it called again? I'm forgetting, who makes Street Fighter?
It's the Konami code. So here
the Konami code, yeah.
We're here on the dashboard and we go up, up, down, left, left, B, A. And then there's your list of 3 fleets that I have on my local instance and maximum of 10 fleets, maximum of 50 hosts per fleet. And it's ordered by the most critically vulnerable hosts. So these are the ones that you would want to be shooting down and dealing with.
Of course, a bit of a novelty, but it's fun to think from a different perspective, how to have a little bit of fun with the work not only we're doing, but customers are doing. We'll maybe someday revisit with product design. All right, that is it. Thank you. I put you on the spot twice, George, with no notice. So you pulled it off. Great job.
I'm always quick to move.
Yeah, you're quick on the draw. Cool. Thank you, everybody who demoed. Thank you to everybody who watched. Thank you, everybody who can subscribe, as they say. Appreciate everybody. And have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon.
We'll have even more in 3 weeks.
Bye, everyone.